This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus on the Tom Bigby River. Sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is about Alva Temple, a Top Gun winner of 1949. Alvin Temple was born August 5th, 1917, near Carrollton, Alabama, to the son of sharecroppers. He had ended up attending Alabama A&M University, where he got a degree in agricultural education. After college, he joined the Army Air Corps during World War II. And there he was sent to Tuskegee, Alabama for the Army's segregated pilot training program. He would graduate doing very well in the class of 43G flight training on July 28, 1943. He was then assigned to the 99th Pursuit Squadron in the 332nd Fighter Group, where he flew 120 combat missions over Europe in a Red Tail P-40 and eventually a P-51 Mustang, where he earned the Distinguished Flying Cross. He was known for being unflappable even under immense battle pressure. The 332nd Fighter Group lost the fewest bombers they escorted in the European theater, and as such were awarded eventually a Presidential Distinguished Unit Citation for their service. After the truce was called and victory in Europe was declared, the 99th, along with the 332nd Fighter Wing, would be reassigned and deactivated post-war. But just 2 months before deactivation, there was to be the first U.S. Gunnery Meet in the Nevada desert. That meant each stateside fighter group was tasked with sending 3 pilots plus 1 alternate to compete. Captain Alva Temple, First Lieutenant James Harvey III, First Lieutenant Harry Stewart Jr., and alternate First Lieutenant Halbert Alexander would attend, where they won an internal competition within their unit, where they qualified to go to the meet in Nevada to represent the 332nd in the propeller class of aircraft. They won their class in Nevada by scoring the most points in every category in the competition. In the 10-day competition, there were 6 events: aerial gunnery at 20,000 feet, aerial gunnery at 12,000 feet, dive bombing, skip bombing, rocket firing, and pedal strafing. The team, led by Temple, led every event in their P-47N Thunderbolts. The win by an all-black team of combat-sharpened pilots was significant. It shattered the myths and stereotypes of the then Jim Crow America. These men broke every rule of what white military leadership thought black soldiers were capable of. In the early 1930s, the Army War College had commissioned a study of, quote, the Negro, and produced a War College report of 1936 of their finding. Their study was woefully unscientific and biased and consisted of surveys and interviews with white officers who had commanded Negro troops during World War I. Per the, quote, study, Negro soldiers were considered childlike, careless, shiftless, irresponsible, secretive, superstitious, immoral, untruthful, comic, emotionally unstable, lacking in morality, and yet they were musically talented with a great sense of rhythm. If fed, they were found to be loyal and compliant. So every white commander was made to read and study this and to carry it with them as they entered into World War II. As World War II training began in earnest and the rigorous programs were filled with students, the washout rates for pilot training were first tracked. White pilot training programs had a 63% washout or failure rate. The rate at Tuskegee, where Temple attended, The first class was only a 40% washout rate. White leadership felt threatened by this, so they made the Tuskegee rate they forced the Tuskegee rate to be raised to 70% or higher. Students at Tuskegee were ordered washed out for shoe shine violations, curfew violations, etc. They were flunked for non-flying related criteria that were not applied to their white pilot contemporaries at other pilot training programs. Colonel Noel Parrish, a white Kentuckian who was the commander at the Tuskegee Army Airfield, forced to apply those unfair standards, went to the white flying school in Montgomery, Alabama, and told their commander, quote, "We wash out better pilots at Tuskegee than you graduate here at Montgomery." This was the same standard and attitude the men of the 332nd encountered when they won a 3-foot-high trophy flying those F-47s, which are essentially souped-up P-47 Thunderbolts, propeller-driven planes in the Nevada desert in that competition. When the banquet was held to honor the winners in the various categories, the 4 men stood there, and not one congratulatory clap was heard. It was silence in the hall. Their feat even went unlisted in the Air Force history. The event's inaugural winners, 4 Black airmen, were not listed and not listed or considered known until 1995 in any of the Air Force Association annals that record the yearly event. And their 3-foot-high trophy was locked away hidden in a closet at Wright Patterson Air Force Base's museum. There were news articles listing the Red Tails of the 332nd as the winners by name, so it was clearly known. But yet it was hidden. Temple would go on to serve in the U.S. Air Force until 1962 when he retired to Columbus and bought a Gulf gas station and opened Temple's radiator sales and auto repairs out on Highway 69. He became an active community member and local state leader, and he served almost a decade on the Mississippi State Department of Natural Resources Committee and was very active in his church and community. Alva Temple died August 28, 2004, and is buried at his family's cemetery in the Cook Temple Memorial Cemetery just across the state line in Pickensville, Alabama. He was awarded a posthumous Congressional Gold Medal in 2007 in national appreciation for his distinguished achievements and personal contributions during World War II. A side note on the World War II accomplishments of the 1,000 Tuskegee Airmen Red Tails would include they had 15,000 combat sorties. They had 260 enemy aircraft destroyed. The men would earn 150 flying crosses and legions of merit with multiple oak leaf clusters. 700 air medals and additional clusters were earned. 300 plus congressional gold medals earned. And the first U.S. pilot, Roscoe Brown, would be the first to shoot down a Messerschmitt for the U.S. in aerial combat. It's amazing to me how this is less than 80 years ago that these people served in Europe and fought so hard in a time where German POWs had more civil rights in this country than they did when they returned from war. It makes me ponder why Alva Temple would come to Columbus and become so involved in the community when the rules that were always against him were so hard and so difficult. And yet he came back, and not only did he serve his country with great pride, he would then come back and serve his community also. He truly was a man from the greatest generation. I want to thank you for coming along on my little podcast, The Tom Bigby Tales. and for joining me to salute this great man, Alva Temple of the Tuskegee Airmen. Until next time.